best. We need to appreciate what we have today of all days. Because I know there was, and it has been one of those sports talk go-tos. What do I mean by that? Well, for decades, and I'm talking decades, I've been in this business nearly 20 years. For decades, when maybe times get a little bit lean in the subject matter department, some of the stories that you go to maybe have run a little bit stale. One of the constant sports radio go-tos is, we should, as a country, just get Monday of the Super Bowl off. Right? And by the way, I would be kind of for it, but not really, because in this business, well, this is where we make our money. But it's always kind of one of those, oh man, Monday after the Super Bowl, that should be a day off. Well, it should only be a day off if you're on the East Coast, because being on the West Coast is there is nothing better than the day after the Super Bowl living on the West Coast. This is one of the best sports experiences that we get. Could you imagine? Because I did the math. I continuously do the math. I do it every single Super Bowl. As I sit there and I left my Super Bowl party and I went home with enough time to even watch the latest True Detective. That show's getting weird. But I'm doing the math, going like, boy, what must it be like? It's overtime? This game goes into overtime? It's 11 o'clock? Now, I know that most people go to bed at 11 o'clock. I kind of do the weird vampire hour thing, but yeah, you're at a party. You have a couple of beers. If you're like me, you got a little, I don't really have the acid reflux, but let's just say I woke up this morning and my body was like, yeah, you ate too much yesterday. I've got a food hangover like nobody's business, but we got a lot of stuff to dive into with regard to the Super Bowl, but it's not going to be completely and utterly Super Bowl dominant today. It's going to be a lot, though. It's going to be a lot because we are now in the midst, and we knew this going in, and we knew this from the AFC Championship game. We are in the midst of a dynasty now. We're right in the heart of it. What the Kansas City Chiefs have been able to do has been as good as any team on a 5-year run. I mean, think about the run that the Kansas City Chiefs are on right now. They've won 3 Super Bowls, in the last 5 years with 4 appearances. Since Patrick Mahomes took the helm as the quarterback of this team, they have never finished anything less than the AFC title game. 6 consecutive AFC title games. Now 3 Super Bowls to go along with it. 3 Super Bowl MVPs. What's he like, 28 years old? It's right in the heart of actual dynasty, and very rarely in this business, and very rarely in this world, the world of sports that we all live in, does the narrative match. Narratives inherently are lazy. They are. They are surface level, right? Inch deep, mile wide. They call it tree topping with regard to topics, right? It's tree top. Just give us the basics. Don't go too deep, because once you get too deep, well, then people get bored. They get turned off. So most of the stuff that you see up on your TV screen on Get Up, and most of the stuff in terms of kind of what we talk about, it's surface level stuff. Some of it's funny. Some of it is entertaining. Some of it is flat out lazy. And the Super Bowl narrative with regard to quarterbacks, most of the time, are lazy. Brock Purdy lost Super Bowl in overtime last night. Does that say anything about the 49ers and the choice that they made and let Trey Lance and Jimmy G? Absolutely not. He got them there. He got them to overtime. Got them the lead in overtime. For what he is to that team, Brock Purdy did a pretty good job. But the narrative that is going to be circling around is he dynamic enough to win the big game, right? All that stuff. That's laziness. We are in the midst of maybe one of the greatest runs of any quarterback, including precious Tom Brady. That is not a lazy narrative. We're actually seeing it come to light because Patrick Mahomes has figured out the game of football. It is one of those traits that few possess. Every single one of them is in the Hall of Fame. But it is one of those traits that few possess, which is they have figured out the equation. I made the Goodwill Hunting comparison last week. That's who Patrick Mahomes is. He's Matt Damon at Goodwill Hunting. He's figured it out. He runs a little funny. He's got a bit of a dad bod. His helmet fits weird. He talks really weird. He's like nothing about Patrick Mahomes screams central casting star quarterback, right? Except for the fact that he has figured out the game of football. All right, how do I need to win today? And also, which is one of the things the great ones do and what the Kansas City Chiefs did this year, know that championship level stuff is not a week-to-week situation. It's not a week-to-week scenario. It is the greats figure out the marathon as opposed to the sprint. We're fans. We're sprinting every single week. It's week to week. Why? Because we don't have practice on Monday. We live and die with our teams on Saturdays or Sundays or Mondays or Thursdays or whenever they play, and you go week to week, and then we have an emotional high or an emotional low, and then we talk about it for a week. And we lose sight of the big picture. And I even think certain players in the NFL kind of lose sight of the big picture. Every team's going to go through a slump. Every team's going to go through a funk. Every team is going to have injuries that are going to bog them down. But it's the math equation, and I hate math, but it's the math equation. Like the Kansas City Chiefs knew, hey, all you got to do is get us in that dance. And then we know what. Did they have the best record in the AFC? No, they did not. Did they have to go on the road to Buffalo and on the road to Baltimore? Yeah. But they knew that at one point in the season, all right, we're not going to have home field advantage, and we're not going to have first-round bye. But if we get this right and we figure this thing out, and by the end of the year, it was like, bink, 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 X plus Y equals Super Bowl. And Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and everybody else in Kansas City, they've got it figured out. That's when they talk about like playoff postseason experience, that's what they're talking about. So, man, what a run. What a run that we are seeing for Patrick Mahomes right now. And it's what we are inevitably going to do each and every time that he wins. And is this it? Is he, how many more Lombardis is possibly out there? Well, it's kind of unlimited right now because usually the trend is this. Quarterback comes up before he gets paid, has some success because the team can allocate money elsewhere. Quarterback gets paid, still has a couple of weapons, and then after a peak, those weapons go away. And inevitably, somebody else will be on the rise again. That's why dynasties, other than the Patriots, that's why dynasties don't last very long in the NFL. It's because you have to allocate money elsewhere. You have to, and players want to go play for the highest amount of money. That money is like Tyreek Hill wasn't going to get paid in Kansas City. They knew it. They shipped him off to Miami. Other than Travis Kelce, heck, they couldn't pay Juju Smith-Schuster. They had to let him go, right? This is one of the reasons why we will talk about Brady in a different level, other than the rings. But Mahomes, and I don't even know who else is in the discussion. Is Patrick, like, Everybody's obsessed with Brady. Brady and Mahomes, Mahomes and Brady, which we are going to have that discussion coming up in a bit. Let me ask you this. Crazy, crazy talk. Has Patrick Mahomes passed Peyton Manning in terms of all-time greats? Is he there? Because it used like we've said that Tom Brady has ruined the curve. He has. Homeboy's got 7 rings. He ruined the curve. Would they? How many years they win that division? I don't know. Every single year. He went to 10 Super Bowl. Like, those are insane numbers. But after Tom Brady, for a lot of people in my generation, all right, well, if Tom Brady is in terms of champion, but who was the best? Well, it's Peyton Manning. Manning is NFL royalty. Well, Peyton Manning, he's got 2 with 3 appearances. Now, again, Super Bowl narrative is a little bit lazy, but it's not always inappropriate. If we are now talking about, and I don't want to get too much recency bias, but if we're talking about greatest quarterbacks of all time, Patrick Mahomes better than Peyton Manning? It's hard to imagine, hard to fathom. Is he better than John Elway? Oh, boy. Now, obviously, a whole lot of work still left to be done, but this is where Mahomes is right now. This is where he is. He is in the conversation in the middle of his career, which we very rarely see. With Brady, Manning, Montana, Troy Aikman. By the way, Troy Aikman's having a tough Twitter day, by the way. Tough Twitter day for Troy Aikman. I don't know, Jim. Definitely better than... I wasn't too turned off by old Tony Romo. He wasn't too bad.
I didn't get to finish with Tony Romo, so...
Yeah, well, you had an interesting experience we're going to talk about. And again, remember the conversation we had last week about how we're talking about how TVs are all going to be streaming and we're all just going to be watching sports streaming. And bandwidth is a thing that we're all going to learn if we don't already know what it is. Because Brenden had a bandwidth problem, let's just say. And he got to watch SpongeBob and who's the other dude?
I'm just going to let you drown for a minute just to...
Okay.
Before I throw that out there. SpongeBob and who's the other dude?
Who's the other dude?
Patrick.
Patrick.
Yeah. So I would hope you would know some SpongeBob characters generally, Justin.
Okay, so you know how...
It has been on for like my entire life.
I understand. Yeah. So you see how you feel right there going like, that is absurd that Justin does not know who Patrick is, right? That is how I feel so many other times when I throw out what I feel is a perfectly normal pop culture reference, and you're like, yeah, I don't know. I was too old for SpongeBob. That's how old I am.
You're never too old for SpongeBob.
I was too old for SpongeBob, and I didn't smoke weed in college. So, okay, so there's that.
If you watch SpongeBob as an adult, you smoke weed. I don't know about that, man. That's a loaded statement, Justin.
I won't want to make a blanket statement, but all I know is everyone who I knew in their 20s who watched SpongeBob smoked weed. I don't know if that's for everybody. It's just my personal anecdotal experience. Anyways, yeah, Patrick, is like his dude?
So, long story short, I think a lot of people were watching the old Fubo CBS stream, so we had to, we'd go, and then it would buffer, and we'd have to catch up. So, threw it over to Nickelodeon. Clearly not as many people on Nickelodeon, because that was a picture-perfect stream.
All right. We're going to get into legacy talk. Did Kyle Shanahan screw up with the overtime? Super Bowl narratives, all sorts of stuff. Coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. and 428. Why football is awesome. All right. Well, yesterday was one of the reasons why football is awesome. Because let's be perfectly honest. Let's have an honest conversation. I'm old enough to remember where there was a string of games where the Super Bowl was just an awful game, right? And for a long, long time, it was like, are we ever going to get a good Super Bowl? And this was like 80s and into the 90s. And maybe it's, I've conveniently forgot a handful here or there, but there was a lot of blowouts for a while. And that was kind of one of the things, are we ever going to get a good Super Bowl? And then we had some epic Super Bowls and we had some great runs. But you watch enough Super Bowls, and if you watch enough football, you know that you go in expecting nothing. And every once in a while, you might just have a clunker of a game. And boy, I was sitting there third quarter going like, do we have a clunker on our hands? Sure feels like it. 49ers came out hot. Turnovers, though. Patrick Mahomes threw a pick, which I think that's the first pick in 3 years in the postseason that Patrick Mahomes has thrown. And is like, did the Chiefs finally run out of gas? Is the moment a little bit too big for Brock Purdy? Why is Kyle Shanahan not running the football? And it was big don't done for a while. Then Usher came on, and regardless of how you feel about Usher, I was watching the game with my wife and a lot of our friends, and let's just say a lot of our friends are elder millennial females. They were really pumped for Usher. Usher, big hit at the party that I was at. I know some people who just can't wait to go on the X app to trash is like, thanks. We enjoyed it. Had a good time. Dude came out on roller skates. Bold move. I'm sure that's part of his deal, like at his residency. But, Brenden, you think that fourth down that the 49ers went for, down 3, remember 49ers were down 3? Did they take the points and tie the game? And like, Shanahan went for it. You think that was a gamble? Paul, Usher halftime show on roller skates? That's a gamble. More like analytics says do not put roller skates on. Slid under a dude's legs. So Usher came on, and again, the demographic that it was supposed to hit, it hit. If it was not your demographic, probably didn't hit. But if you were alive in 2004 and were in any kind of mood, boy, it brought you right back. So Usher came in, picked up the vibes a little bit at the party that I was at, but we were in the midst of a clunker. But this is why football is awesome. It's pizza. Even when it's bad, it's good. Even when it's bad, it's good. And unlike pizza, it can start off bad and end good. Right? That's the old adage about pizza, right? Hey, pizza in the break room. What is it? It's a chain. All right, now I want to disperse any chains because if any chain wants to advertise on this particular program, we're open for it. And I am not too snooty for chain pizza, but we all know what we're talking about. It's like, it's still pizza in the break room. But it doesn't get better. Whereas football, that game the 49ers went like almost 2 hours of real time because of the extended overtime without a first down. Yet still, somehow, inevitably, had a lead in the Super Bowl in the fourth quarter. All right, so let's talk about the two roads that lead out of Vegas. All right, one road heading to Kansas City. Parade on the way. They know the route because it's number 3. It's old hat now. That legacy talk, by the way, we're going to talk about Patrick Mahomes' legacy a lot. What about Andy Reid's legacy? Now, certified Hall of Famer. 3 championships now for him as a head coach. That is rarefied air. Rarefied air. Think about, again, Belichick, different scenario, and you go back to, Chuck Noll in the 70s. Other than, those guys, 2 Super Bowls is kind of the capper. You think about guys in the Hall of Fame Jimmy Johnson is in the Hall of Fame, 2 Super Bowls. Bill Cowher is in the Hall of Fame, 1 Super Bowl. I believe this was Andy Reid's 6th Super Bowl appearance because he had the one with Philadelphia. And now 3rd Super Bowl win. Legacy for Andy Reid. That's one path out of Vegas, right? Legacy for Patrick Mahomes. He's now in the discussion. He's at the table. He is like, there's the kids' table of like really good quarterbacks had really good careers. Then there's like the secondary table. It's full of like Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, right? Guys that got 1 or 2 in the now. Patrick Mahomes like, oh, it's been great, fellas. And now he's going to the other table, which is a lot of elbow room at this table that Patrick Mahomes just set himself up. That's that pathway. That's that roadway out of Vegas. Oh, but Brenden, there's a second roadway out of Vegas. And it's a shorter trip, but it's not a pleasant one. And that's the one that heads back to the Bay Area. Because now, Kyle Shanahan is into that terribly crowded place of can't win the big one. Now, again, if we learned anything from Andy Reid, because I'm old enough to remember Andy Reid couldn't win the big one. Right, that was Andy Reid. Eagles keep getting the NFC title game. They lost 3 in a row. Finally got over the hump when they got T.O. Lose in the Super Bowl to precious Tom Brady. And Andy Reid couldn't win the big one. So much so that Philadelphia said, Andy, it's been great, but we're looking to go elsewhere. And Andy was like, all right. And he goes to Kansas City, and everyone's like, what is Kansas City doing? Another retread. This ain't going to work. If Andy Reid couldn't win the big one at Philadelphia, how's he going to win it at Kansas City? Well, as we know now, you get yourself a quarterback, and you've got yourself a chance. And so Andy Reid used to be can't win the big one. Now, here comes Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator with a, what was the, is it 28-3?
28-3.
28-3 lead. Blew it. Kyle Shanahan was the head coach of the 49ers. Double-digit lead in the second half back in 2020-2019 season. Obviously, that would give Mahomes and the Chiefs the first win on this magical run that they've been on. And then now another one where I think you got to start questioning, like, what was Kyle Shanahan thinking? That's super easy. Let me just throw this out. This is super easy. Hindsight, I'm not in the moment. I'm not there with the call sheet. And obviously situations are situational and they dictate everything. But the lack of times Christian McCaffrey not getting the football in this particular game, I thought was alarming. And I think Brock Purdy is a tremendous quarterback, and I think he's exactly what they needed. But the fact that you got Christian McCaffrey back there, and you did not really seem to have any creative. No, they're not going to let you run between the tackles. It's a Super Bowl. Chiefs know what they're doing. They know that McCaffrey is the guy but like, you talk about the all-time greats in terms of play. You have 2 weeks to come up with creative ways, and the fact that McCaffrey, who, I mean, at certain times, other than Mahomes, looked like the best player on that field. And it was like, well, maybe let this guy eat a little bit. Let's maybe let this guy dance a little bit. So that's going to be one of the things that Kyle Shanahan's going to have to deal with. On top of this question, which I don't blame Shanahan for this. I'm actually thinking we need to have this conversation right now. Since they changed the overtime rules, and as it turns out, I was in a room full of people, and everybody was looking at me about overtime, and it turns out, Brenden, I didn't know jack about NFL overtimes. I thought I knew, but I was like, wait, so it used to be if you scored a touchdown, ball game, but they got rid of that rule because too many quarterbacks were losing without even touching the ball.
Josh Allen.
That's the Josh Allen rule. Yeah.
Sorry, I had to get that
It's
in.
the Josh Allen rule. Actually, somebody, tip of the cap, to my buddy Nate, who was like, "That's a Josh Allen rule," and I'm like,
Totally is. It's just because
exactly right.
He complained too much.
I got all I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, I think that I got so confused, and they're like, "Aren't you a radio sports talk?" I go, "Yeah, but those guys don't know anything." So with the Josh Allen rule now implemented, should you go on defense first? Because the old way was always, no, you would never go on defense first because you might not ever get the ball. Marty Morningwig, former coach of the Detroit Lions, took the wind one overtime game. He ultimately got fired. It was overtime. It's like, yeah, we're going to kick because we want to go that way. That's where the wind is going. Field goals are going to win this game. And then they came down and they lost. And it's like, dude, you never got the ball. So that used to be the old way. Always take the ball because you might never get it back. But now that you get a chance, now it's almost like college. Other than the ball going to the 25 and you're automatically in field goal range, you're just going to get another kickoff. But it's almost like college where even if they score a touchdown, you get the ball back. Don't you want to know what you have to get? Isn't there something inherent to having the advantage in overtime of knowing that, yeah, we're going for it on every fourth down? We absolutely have. So that gives you essentially an extra play. Because where was the ball when Kansas City had it fourth down in overtime? Wasn't it on like the 30? I had let me pull up the overtime right here. 4th and 1 on their own 34. I was close. 4th and 1 on their own 34. But you're down 3 with the ball in overtime. Obviously, there's no question. You're going for it. If you got the ball first and it's 4th and 1 on your own 34, do you go for it there? Or do you punt it and play the field position game and try to get a stop? Who knows? But what you did, if you're being San Francisco, taking the ball first, you have eliminated that decision. There is no analytics, math, what do we do, Detroit Lions stuff. You eliminated that decision. You marched down, got yourself a score. By the way, credit to Brock Purdy, who had a couple of nice plays on that. Set them up for a field goal. Now you've got the lead in overtime. But guess what Kansas City has? They got the advantage in knowing that every first down, we get a new set of downs. Is that 3 plays? No, that's 4. We get 1 extra play. We can set you up with something. And it ultimately led to them boop, 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 marching down the field. And boy, it felt like that first and goal play, like San Francisco kind of knew. Didn't it feel like that? Like Kansas City on the game-winning touchdown, a great play design and everything, but it felt like the 49ers, like, we know what's happening. Got caught up. Ugh. And again, I don't blame Shanahan because for years and years and years and years before the new little wrinkle in overtime, yeah, you take the ball. Should he have taken the ball? Or should he have I guess the other thing is if they go down and score a touchdown, now defensively you've got an advantage going like all you got to do is keep them out of the end zone. And so there's that. But I just think there's something to knowing what you got to get.
I would have put my defense out there. And,
Yeah.
I think that maybe they just wanted the ball. Maybe they wanted to keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands and, something along those lines.
You're right, but you knew he was getting it eventually.
Right.
At some point, he was touching that pigskin.
Right, and that's
even
where...
though it's made of cow skin.
Yeah, I really do think that for the most part, the Chiefs just handled it better, and I think kind of like as it got closer and closer, I think the Niners started to tense up a little bit, Justin, and start, maybe the doubts of losing to this team and blowing a 10-point lead to this team 4 years ago creep back in. It was so close. We're sitting here, parsing it out between,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really that close. It just ultimately came down to the fact that, that muffed punt was huge in this game.
Yeah.
Like that
Huge.
changed everything. That changed everything. And I think that completely killed the 49ers. Like, they could have put the game away, I think, Justin, but they just gave Mahomes a chance. And like Brady, don't give him a chance or he's going to make you pay. That last drive, I'm like, well, this is the stuff legends are made of. You're down by, 3 and need to go and get a touchdown to win the game, and he did.
And again, this is where football is the best. I'm going to say that a lot today because we don't have football for a long, long time.
It's going to be very sad, Justin.
It's okay. We're going to get through it together. But this is why football is the best. Everything depends on everything. What do I mean by that? Every play matters. We're going to sit here and we're going to talk about, and it's fair because it comes with the paycheck and it comes with the position, but we're going to sit here and we're going to talk about Kyle Shanahan and can't win the big one and all that stuff. Brenden, the San Francisco 49ers got the football to open up the Super Bowl and marched down the field. Let's see. 6-yard gain, 18-yard gain, 11-yard gain, 11-yard gain. That's the opening possession. They are cooked. Christian McCaffrey fumbles. That one's not on the play sheet, gang. Hey, let's all be careful in case the best running back in the league right now and one of the best weapons in the league fumbles the ball. You're ready to go ahead, draw first blood, and deliver a statement. Christian McCaffrey fumbles. Now later, Kansas City, in throwing a counterpunch, would also fumble. So you could say, well, that counteract one another. But then you go back to, as you mentioned, the muffed punt, which I felt so bad for. Is it Ray McLeod who was back there?
Yeah, but it hit the other dude.
It wasn't his fault.
No, it was not. You're right.
At the beginning, you're like, what are you doing? And then you're like, oh, no, hit your guy. Had to do something.
What do they always say, Justin? Get away from the ball. I mean.
Yeah, but that's one of those things that everybody says, but every coach says that, but no coach has ever been there blocking a dude in the Super Bowl with nothing but noise going and they're supposed to hear a Peter call. Anyways, yeah. Completely flips the game. But then you go into the overtime and the fact that Mahomes was going to get the ball, why not know what you got to get? All those things equal football is awesome. Football is awesome. That if McCaffrey doesn't fumble, what happens? Well, that's going to be on a Bay Area bar discussion for a long, long time. All right, we're going to wrap up hour number 1. But before we do that, do want to let you know about the good folks at DeBella. That's right. Hey, how was your home? How was your Super Bowl party? Did you host it at your house? How'd your bathroom hold up? Because we know Super Bowl parties, the bathroom is key. And if you maybe need to upgrade or improve your bathroom, guess who you need to call? You need to call DeBella. You don't even have to call them. Just go to debella.us for a free, no-obligation appointment. They can make updating your home super easy. Were you hosting a Super Bowl party and was your house a little drafty? Well, maybe upgrading your windows, upgrading your roofing, upgrading your siding, making your house more energy efficient, saving up to 30% on those energy bills might be the start heading into now this big, long lull that we have with no football in our lives. Plus, DeBella is one of the best in the business, if not the best in the business. Why? Because we've been talking about stats and statistics with Super Bowls for a long, long time. How about this stat? 15,000 plus 5-star reviews on Google for their excellent work. Plus, how about financing? 0 down, no payments until 2025. That's right, 0 down, no payments until 2025 on approved credit for roofing, siding, windows, bath renovations. I know it seems overwhelming. I know it seems hard. It is not. Go to DeBella, DABELLA.us for a free, no obligation appointment. They can updating your home so easy. DeBella, they're the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers. right, wrapping up hour number one. And obviously it is a Super Bowl hangover Monday. A lot of time throughout the rest of the week and throughout the rest of the month and throughout the rest of, the winter heading into spring, even though that liar Punxsutawney Phil says spring's on the way. I don't believe him. I don't believe him one bit. But we got a lot of time to be talking about the NBA, and we will continue that. But it's Super Bowl Monday. A lot of other stuff to be discussed and thrown into. So, Brenden, you said you had an interesting story, which similar events, not maybe to the extreme that you had it, but similar events were happening as well as the TV that I was watching. We mentioned last week how what is ultimately going to happen with this whole streaming thing, and with more and more people cutting the cord and more and more people going to streaming, and I've said one of the issues that streaming has had with sports is that it's not quite there yet. And now I thought after the Amazon Thursday Night Football and Peacock did the playoff game, and it felt like enough people have figured out how to log in, and with the fact that YouTube TV has had NFL Sunday Ticket all season long, so sports bars had to figure out how to stream stuff where it used to just be on the satellite, and all those hurdles. And then there were a couple of times, at least in the house that I was at, one at a very unfortunate time for the spinning wheel of death to be popped up. But your bandwidth shut down. Yeah, and you had to flip over to the Nickelodeon version for the Super Bowl?
It was entertaining. It was kind of like an awesome Super Bowl where SpongeBob was on the halftime show. But,
Okay. That was the Maroon 5 one, though.
And Travis Scott. So
okay, I know.
You won't change my opinion on that, Justin.
It's like you won't change my opinion on Usher. I thought Usher was awesome.
Yeah, I thought he was mid compared to Rihanna. He wasn't any better than the last two. I mean, he was solid, but
well, okay.
What I saw on social media was like mid, and I'm like, yeah, it's fair. It's mid.
I thought it was great, but again, I am the target demographic, right? I am. You're never going to beat Dr. Dre and company. Like, that's it. That's the gold standard. You're never going to beat it. So quit trying to, not you, I'm talking to the internet. Quit trying to compare it. Like, it's just not. You're not going to compare it. It's not going to happen. I like when they bring out guests. I like that I got to see Ludacris there and Lil Jon there and Alicia Keys there. And again, soundtrack to my douchebaggery, which is what it was.
Ludacris was probably thrilled to not have to do State Farm commercials for money. I guess you don't get paid in the Super Bowl, but that, I mean, it's fair.
I think Ludacris is doing okay.
Is he?
He's in all those Fast and Furious movies.
Are they? I don't know.
They make a lot of money.
I don't know if they're any good.
Nope, but they make a lot of money. Let's be a little careful how we dance around the Fast and Furious movies. I love them. I think they're the best. They're exactly what they need to be.
How many movies does Brenden love that Justin's like, I've never watched and won't watch? So.
I understand. I'm just saying. He's in the Fast and Furious movies. He's got some State Farm commercials. I'm sure, he's probably still doing fairly well. But I love that Ludacris was there. You knew Lil Jon was coming out because he wasn't busy. You know what I mean? But bandwidth in the Super Bowl, spinning wheel of death, and then you had to flip over to the Nickelodeon version, which was interesting. I love that they have it. Let's just say Nickelodeon version at the party I was at was on upstairs. So kids go to the Nickelodeon one, and then the adults and a lot of 49er fans with a lot of emotion, maybe some cursing, maybe some inappropriate words, maybe some things being said that cannot be repeated. But yeah, I don't know about the cutting the cord quite yet. Now, cable's not perfect, but I know that there were bandwidth problems at the house that I was at. There was bandwidth problems where they got to get that figured out. Can't be having that during the Super Bowl. Can't be having spinning wheel of death buffering, but we can't be having that during the Super Bowl. How was the snack situation? I have a food hangover right now. I ate too much yesterday. Didn't drink too much. Drank an appropriate amount. Ate way too much. How was the spread at the slaughter party?
Yeah, no, solid. Ate a appropriate amount and drank an appropriate amount. I'm
But
doing.
you said you were going to be maybe switching it up, going Chinese food.
No, we did chicken.
Just
We did chicken, beans, macaroni.
macaroni salad or macaroni and cheese?
Macaroni and cheese.
There you go. So almost like a summer picnic style.
Yeah, a little bit. Yep, like chicken on the bone, barbecue. Yeah, it was good.
Did you make it, or did you go get like a rotisserie?
One of our guests brought the chicken. So
Smart.
Yeah.
Good job. Way to
yeah,
go, guests.
It was good. Like I said, we didn't. I was up in Washington this weekend, so we got back about 1:00. Had just enough time to do our stuff. The guests brought food. It was a good day.
I ate a lot of chicken wings yesterday. Oh, the drumettes, by the way.
Yeah, how many flats?
I had some flats, and I thought about my rant, but I was also right when I went to go get. Let's be honest, a second or a third scooping of the chicken wings. This is a big bowl. In the bowl, guess what? Only flats left. Yeah, only flats left. So I think I'm still right on this one. So yeah, wings and nacho bar, which that's the best way to do the nachos, right? Everybody gets to make their own with all sorts of different options. Nacho bar. I made a thing called. Now I'm curious. You may or may not like what I made. I made a thing called shotgun shells. So here's what your buddy did. Found this on the internet. Manicotti noodle, which is have you ever had the manicotti? Like the big. Into the manicotti went a mixture of ground beef, ground sausage, cheese, green chilies. Put those all together, stuff the manicotti noodle, then wrap that bad boy in bacon. Let it sit overnight, settle, throw it on the Traeger, smoked it for an hour, threw a little barbecue sauce on top, cut them up into bite-sized bits. Question, Brenden, would you have tried one?
It's a lot of ground beef for my liking. A lot of ground beef for my liking.
What if it was only sausage inside?
No.
You're not into sausage either?
Nope.
Is it a texture thing?
No, it's just chicken and fish, baby.
But do you like sausage links? Have you ever?
Don't like them.
All right.
If I was hungry and had nothing else made for me, but, Justin, it's kind of funny. As you get older and older, it's like there's never any instances where I'm just hungry and I can't just, have what I want. So it's like,
What a privileged life you have. One day you will go to a party. You will go to a dinner party. You will meet future Mrs. Slaughter, and you're going to go to a dinner party. And you're going to be like, this is a terrible spread. I'm eating salad, and that's it. All right, we have got a whole bunch more show coming up. Hour number 2 on the way next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 7 a.m. on a Super Bowl hangover Monday. Justin Myers with you. The Kansas City Chiefs are champions of the world. They take down the 49ers 25-22. Patrick Mahomes is your Super Bowl MVP. He now has 3 Lombardis and 3 Super Bowl MVPs to his name. Other football news over the weekend. Former UCLA head coach Chip Kelly is leaving Westwood and the Bruins in mid-February to take the offensive coordinator role at Ohio State, leaving a vacancy at UCLA. Joining us in hour number 3, Steve Tanner from 95.3 The Score down in Eugene is going to join us. But we continue our Super Bowl Hangover Monday edition of Rip City Mornings on 620 Rip City Radio. And welcome back to Rip City Mornings, hour number 2. Happy Monday, everybody. I'm going to continue to hit this point home. Man, being on the West Coast is awesome. It is. It is the best, and I will hear none of it from anybody else. It is the absolute best way to watch sports is living on the West Coast. The only time it's an inconvenience, the only time is every once in a while on a weekday, like when the NBA Finals are going on, or when the World Series is going on, and it's like you got a game that starts at about 5. That's about it. But, I mean, think about football starting at 3:30. Perfect time to show up. You get to your Super Bowl party, or maybe you hosted your Super Bowl party. And here's the best thing, too, as well. If you were a host, like, games, you can scurry people out. You don't like and even if you do get a couple lingerers, did you get some lingerers there at the party? You let it be known like bedtime's coming up.
Yeah,
like,
it was the overtime. Everyone's like, I'm ready to roll.
I will say, I have become accustomed to early mornings. That's just part of the gig. It's what we all signed up for, and there are some great positive benefits to it. There's some drags to it, but I will say, nobody at my Super Bowl party, Brenden, questioned when game was over, packed up, left. Like, it was not, nobody was like, hey, how rude was Myers? Like, just came in, he had a lot of chicken wings, by the way, and just bounced as soon as the game was over. It was like, nobody, I was like, yeah, going home, got to get to bed soon. But Super Bowl starting at 3:30. March Madness starting at 9 a.m. Could you imagine having to wait till noon for March Madness to happen? And on days like today, we are especially grateful for the fact that Super Bowl starts at 3:30. And people on the East Coast, yeah, it's going to be tough. It might be a little bit of a tough Monday for you. Thoughts, sights, sounds from the Super Bowl. I didn't mind it because I think it's still one of the most interesting stories in the NFL right now, where NFL and pop culture mixed. But I will say this: if you were one of those dudes who did not like the Taylor Swift cutaways, yesterday was not your day. Yesterday was not your. CBS was like, guys, this is the Super Bowl. All right, this is. There's going to be a lot of parties with a lot of people who don't watch our product all the time. We're going to show Taylor as much as possible. So if you were one of those, and again, the things that people let themselves get upset about, it's like, oh, too much Taylor Swift. It's like, did you miss a play? Was there a play missed in the game? No. So instead of watching guy with his face painted, you got a picture of like the most popular pop, like Super Bowl is where football and sports meets pop culture, and they intermix. It was also very interesting watching some of the Taylor Swift fans, Brenden, react to Travis Kelce and his little dust up with Andy Reid on the sideline, and it's like, yeah, kids, that's football. Probably not the best look when poor Andy Reid stumbled, dropped the play sheet, but it's like, Yeah, that's football. There's going to be some passion. There's going to be some emotion. It's the biggest game of the year. Trying to win a Super Bowl. Sometimes those emotions are going to boil over. But yeah, if you were one of those people triggered by the Taylor Swift stuff, yesterday wasn't your day. It just wasn't. It wasn't your day yesterday because there was pregame coverage. Yeah, a lot of Taylor. Understood. Not that anybody cares about, well, my bets or my workouts, right, or my golf score. Like nobody cares about that kind of. Brenden, I got murdered on the prop bets. Won the coin toss. All right, picked heads. Won the coin toss. Purple Gatorade. We went orange in our house. Went orange. It was purple. So purple Gatorade was it. What else? Oh, all right. Tell me what you think about this. Now I understand. Look, sports books are going to do what sports books do for fun, because I figured, there's going to be some field goals. There's going to be some extra points. I bet a very minimal amount, but I bet on there being a doink, that a field goal would go off of the uprights. Now, the description on DraftKings says a doink, any kick that hits the goalpost. That's the description that DraftKings put. There was a kickoff that hit the goalpost. Now, it was not a field goal or extra point attempt. And on DraftKings, it says any kick that hits the goalpost, kickoff, bink, hits the goalpost. Jim Nantz said, and we have a doink on the kickoff. And I'm like, did I just win? Yeah, I got clarification. No, it was kicking, field goals, or extra points only. So there's no doink.
I can see that.
As long as you go in knowing that sports books are going to protect the assets, if you know what I'm saying. And anytime they can no. Well, okay, we said no. So I missed the Gatorade. There was no doink. I did hit the coin flip, though. Got that one. Felt pretty good about that one. Yeah, we're in the midst of greatness right now, because the Tom Brady comparisons are going to continue. And here's where I think with the Patrick Mahomes Tom Brady comparison, where I do think it is fair. Obviously, the amount of Super Bowls that they have won, the amount of Super Bowls that they have played in, the high level of success. But here's where I do think the comparisons start. Other than, I would say, and I could probably have this wrong, but the last year when Peyton Manning was with the Denver Broncos and they got that win over the Carolina Panthers, that was not Peyton Manning's best year. His arm was kind of fail. He would ultimately retire, walk away as a champion. But that was a Super Bowl won by the defense. But usually, when you start seeing teams kind of fall off of an unbelievable run, they don't do the horror movie, hey, one last scare. And it's like, Kansas City Chiefs looked cooked this year. They look cooked going into the playoffs. They look, how are they going to go to Buffalo and then to Baltimore and then beat the Fort? Like, how are they? It's like, yeah, I know how they're going to do it. They got Patrick Mahomes. They've got the best quarterback in the league. They got one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time who has everything kind of figured out. That's where I do think the Tom Brady comparisons are appropriate. Because usually a quarterback, you've got a great run, and then once they start looking a little bit like, all right, some weapons leave and not playing at an elite level, like Lamar Jackson in the regular season was the MVP. Not in the postseason, but in the regular season, Lamar Jackson was the MVP, and really there wasn't much of a case for anybody else. Not in the postseason. That was Patrick Mahomes. Because Patrick Mahomes knew, like, just get me in the dance. That's all you got to do. You just got to get me in the dance. And his ability to make chicken salad out of you know what is one of those special traits that we can't quantify, right? This is where the analytics has to take a seat, right? Hey, math nerds, appreciate what you've done for the game. Going for it on fourth down is exciting and all. Team's not wanting to punt all the time, but you know what? You need to take a little bit of a break, take a back seat, because there's one thing you cannot quantify. And that is when a game is going completely apart. When, like the Chiefs had 3 points at halftime. What they were doing was not working. They went punt, fumble, punt, field goal. And the field goal was with what? 7 seconds left or 11 seconds left in the half. They were absolutely getting thrown off by the 49ers defense. And Mahomes looked out of sorts. And guess what? You go into halftime. You get a little extra halftime because Usher's going to take his shirt off.
He needed to wipe his face, man. My goodness.
It was. But you know what? He's working.
AC.
He's working. Have you ever been... Is SoFi natural grass inside? Is it?
Yes.
I noticed that when I went to Glendale and for the first time, and you go into those stadiums where they do bring the natural grass in, it is muggy. Like it will.
That's true.
It will make it like, and boy, Usher got the worst of it. He did. He got it. But a little extra halftime, and then boom. Patrick Mahomes comes out. Interception to start the second half. This game's over. 10-3. Punt. What's going, like, it's over, right? They get a field goal, hold San Francisco, punt again. Finally, they get the touchdown off the muff punt. One thing can turn a game on a dime. That's where great quarterbacks are made. Just give me one advantage. One little mishap. 49ers muff the punt. Boom, boom, boom. Touchdown. And like, all right, now we got a ball game. And once it's a ball game, all bets are off. Purdy and the 49ers had him. They had him. Had a chance to bury him. Too many mistakes. All right. We got Make or Miss coming up in just a bit. But before we do that, once again, I want to tell you about the good folks at DeBella's. Why? 15,000 five-star reviews. How about that? How about we just start off there? But it is Oregon's roofing, siding, windows, bath experts. And I know something that you're all thinking about maybe in 2024. Well, how about saving some money? Maybe your other New Year's resolutions have fallen off. Obviously, the diet might have taken a little bit of a hit like mine did on Super Bowl Sunday. But we can all try to save some money. So updating your roof with solar shingles could potentially pay for your roof with savings. And they also have federal or state incentives. Contact DeBella for details. It's easy. Estimates are convenient, free, and scheduled at any time that is convenient for you. Now is the perfect time to connect with DeBella because of the financing opportunity that I've been telling you about for a long time now. 0 down and no payments until 2025. Roofing, windows, siding, bath. Make your home more efficient, save money on your energy bills. Plus, it just looks better. Check out DeBella for a free, no obligation appointment for roofing, windows, siding, bath projects. DeBella, they are the official home improvement partner of the Portland Timbers. right, in an hour from now, we're going to talk to Steve Tannen, my good pal, Danny Eugene, get his thoughts on the Super Bowl that was. Patrick Mahomes, now all-time great. I mean, we got to wait till this whole thing plays out. But you know what? Who knows where we're going to be by that? Right now, we're here talking about it on a Monday. I don't know where we're going to be when the whole thing plays out. Where does he rank all time? Where is, because Brenden, try not to side-eye me when I say this. But one of the things of, say, if somebody was anti-Tom Brady greatest of all time, which I believe he's the greatest quarterback of all time, I believe he might be the greatest football player of all time. But if you were anti that, you would probably say, well, Tom Brady, never did anything exceptional, like arm strength, yards. Did have the one season with Randy Moss with all the touchdowns, but you look at all the yards that Drew Brees had, all the touchdowns that Peyton Manning had, the arm strength that John Elway had. Tom Brady was kind of the ultimate game manager. I don't buy that for a minute, because you can't just keep winning at that level unless you are truly elite. But now you get Patrick Mahomes coming in there, and he's got the championships and the physical, incredibly accurate, arm strength, can extend plays. I mean, in the conversation of maybe the greatest to ever play the position, after yesterday, Patrick Mahomes is like, hi, I'm Patrick. I'm checking in. He's in. Not saying he is, but he's in that conversation.
Say what you will, but for instance, Mahomes' best season, still not even eclipsed by Brady's best season. Brady still has more yards in a single season than Mahomes. So
is that the
year after the Super Bowl? Brady threw for 5,300 yards. Mahomes is throwing.
What year was it?
20? That was 20.
The last year in Tampa?
Second to last year in Tampa.
Okay.
That's when they lost to the Rams on the way to the Super Bowl, when they were trying to defend, go back to back.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
also the yards per season thing, they play 17 games now.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
that's true.
And you don't have two teams that get a bye in the postseason. I guess that might not count, but in the regular season, you play 17 games. So I'm with you. I'm not denying it. I'm just saying, in terms of Patrick Mahomes versus everybody else, who would you put above him on the list right now? Tom Brady is in his own stratosphere.
Yeah.
Who do you put above Patrick Mahomes? Right, and it's his recency bias, and he just won the Super Bowl yesterday, and he probably hasn't been to bed yet and all that. But who do you put above him? Montana?
You got to talk Joe Montana. What he did for the Niners, the 4 Super Bowl, or right, 3 for him, and then 1 for Steve Young, or did Montana 4?
I think Montana had 4. Steve Young had 5.
Yes,
had 1.
made 5. Okay, so 4 for Joe Montana. He's gonna deserve some credit for a long time, because that dude was Justin, he's all of it, right? Heisman Trophy winner in college, great player.
I don't think Joe Montana won the Heisman.
I thought he had the Heisman at Notre Dame. Or did he win the national championship?
I don't know if he won either.
No, he won one of them for sure.
We might have to do a little research on that, but I'm fairly certain I don't think Joe Montana won the Heisman or won a national title.
I swear I thought he won a national title at Notre Dame, but regardless, I could be misremembering. I think it's one of those things where it's easy to start to list guys, but Justin, Joe Montana needed most of his career to get to number 4.
Because it's super hard. It's ridiculously hard to get to 2, let alone 3, which is what Patrick Mahomes had. It's so hard.
Right. And it really is one of those things where, you take Brady out of the equation, there could be a case that Mahomes is the best of all time if you just take Brady out right now. But here's the thing, Justin. I'll say this even as a Tom Brady fan, the reason I think Mahomes could catch him one day. Mahomes is more naturally athletically gifted than Tom Brady. That's just fact. Tom Brady could not do a read option like Mahomes did
Exactly.
Yesterday.
That's kind of what I was saying.
Right.
Was
athletically speaking, he is not the guy who ran the 8-second 40-yard dash in the big baggy shirt, and everyone's like, oh, here's this Tom Brady looking.
To be fair, that's how he worked out in 1997.
Fair.
It was big baggy cotton shirts.
But that's what I look at is and honestly, as a Brady fan, I love to see. I was pulling for Mahomes yesterday. He's on the path, Justin. That's cool.
Not just on the path, but And is what we do. We rank and we have a tough time just kind of appreciating in the moment. But like,
I knew I wasn't crazy. Joe Montana did have a national championship in college, but not a Heisman. You were right. Correct. Thank you.
Did ruin Rudy for everybody. Ruined Rudy for everybody. All right. It's not ruin, make, or miss. Let's dial it up.
Yeah, I'll wear that one for a minute, Justin. I don't know why in the world I thought Joe Montana had a Heisman. But maybe it was the Natty that I was thinking of instead. I didn't even know. Dan Devine and Joe Montana won a title. I actually did not know that until today. So I thought it was one or the other. But
I'm trying to think. Is it like a real national title or?
It would have been. I think it was
because there's a couple. It would have been 77. There's a couple of those national titles out there that are like, what? Were we sure that was a real national title? Because now it's easy, right? That you win the college football playoff, you hoist the trophy. It's a done deal. I even think back in 77, I think they actually declared national champions before the bowl game. As crazy as that sounds, because the bowl game was an actual exhibition, which is what they are now. Anyways.
Yeah, back then it was, like you said, it was who, what. what team was like, what AP won it for, what, the Harris poll, all the different ones that were. So that's kind of interesting. But nevertheless, Justin, let's go ahead and open up Make or Miss because we got some good ones to talk about today. We'll start here. Chip Kelly threw up the middle finger to UCLA.
Yeah. Okay. Little quick pause from Super Bowl talk to talk about what happened on Friday afternoon into evening. I can understand why Chip Kelly would want to leave UCLA as the head coach and go coach the Seattle Seahawks as an offensive coordinator, or the Washington Commanders for that matter, or one of a handful of other NFL jobs that maybe he could have and maybe did interview for. And I could also understand, because Chip Kelly has never said any of this. We are implying and guessing. But it sounded like Chip was tired of the baloney, which is NIL, transfer portal, conference realignment, all that stuff. Yeah, he was the most vocal. Remember, he went on that thing about why don't we just make it like the NFL, and he keeps talking about like the NFL. And when he was at Oregon, he was like, every game's a Super Bowl. Never said a Rose Bowl, said a Super Bowl. Wanted to make everything like the NFL. So I can understand, it's like, all right, Chip Kelly's going to go to the NFL. That's fine. He's always wanted to succeed in the NFL. He's one of those guys. Does he think the baloney and the nonsense is going to stop at Ohio State just by not being the head coach? Do you think that you're not going to have to deal with recruiting? And maybe Ryan Day made a pitch to him. I don't know. Maybe Ryan Day came out here and said, listen, Ohio State recruits itself. I got a lot of running backs coaches and tight ends coaches who are going to go out and pound the pavement. I need you developing and working on the off. Maybe. But, like, you think it's going to get any different there at Ohio State? The only difference is you're not the last phone call, right? Whereas, like, a quarterback's unhappy with his NIL, third-string quarterback's unhappy with his NIL package and is wanting to transfer. That's the phone call you're not taking? I don't know. But it must have been so toxic between both Chip Kelly and the athletic department at UCLA and maybe something still comes from, like, the fact that the rumors around him getting fired in October were swirling, and they didn't have his back until he beat UCL or beat USC. But this is it's kind of a mean-spirited move, isn't it?
Totally mean-spirited. I mean,
this is like,
there are guys.
I know everybody here in Oregon. Everybody loves Chip Kelly, and I think he's a good coach. I'm curious to see what happens at Ohio State, but there is a term for this that I can't say on the radio, but it's a certain type of move. I think you all know what I'm talking about. It's like if you were, maybe it was one of those opportunities, but if you were going to leave, when I'm stuttering all over the place. Was it February 9th? That's when you leave? After secondary signing day. So first signing day comes and goes. Second signing day comes and goes. Then you leave? And you could say all you want about the coach and the administration, and maybe they forced his hand and everything else. But, Brenden, there's a full class of recruits. And look, college football is big business now. You all wanted to pay the players. You made it a business. It's not show friends. It's show business now. And I get it. But, think about all those players that Chip Kelly said, yeah, please sign with us. We're building something here. Come to UCLA. I'm going to develop you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to leave for a coordinator job at Ohio State and take a massive pay cut. Imagine being a high school player who signed with UCLA and it's just by February, and maybe you're even there taking classes and just bails.
At least you get to enter the transfer portal. Thank goodness.
There is a spring transfer portal.
No, the 30 days.
You get the 30 days.
If a coach leaves, you just that's why I said UCLA is about ready to inject new life into the portal.
You get the 30 days, but also here's the other thing though, the dirty little secret that nobody wants to talk about. Yeah, all those players can transfer. There's not a lot of spots left. It's February. You want to go to Oregon? Good luck. They're full. We're full here. Washington, same thing. They already went through this. They did their 30 days in and out. Seats taken. Shout out Forrest Gump. Seats taken. Can't sit here. What a selfish move. What a selfish move.
It's just
you're either going to be the head coach or you're not.
Let me put it this way. I know, even going back to when, he handled his leave or his leaving from Oregon better than this. And leaving from Oregon is when KZI caught him with a rolling suitcase at the Eugene airport saying, Coach, have you, yep, hire anybody on that staff. It's best staff in America. Bye. As I get on a plane. And Oregon fans were he's already gone. Oh, Chip, this bad look.
Now I will say I believe that's the best way to do. If you want to leave and go, rip the Band-Aid off, get out of town, right? I don't need your sob story about how great it is, and I don't need your Kalen DeBoer crying.
So what if you don't rip off the Band-Aid and you leave all your Oregon State gear at Goodwill and you just pretty much handle it like a snake?
I don't know if there's a good way to handle it, and clearly Jonathan Smith rubbed a lot of Oregon State fans the wrong way, and I understand that. But this 1 foot out the door for 3 months is something. Boy, it's something. How did it get this bad? To where, because
this is
I don't know an awful lot about Chip Kelly. Again, he was the most elusive person. You learn stuff about Chip. You're like, boy, I covered him. I didn't know that. He very private, very close to the vest. But here's what I did. The guy was a competitor. And you just want to quit? Because that's what he did. You want to quit because you don't want the smoke and you want to go be a coordinator at Ohio State? I don't know. It's a mess, though. It is an utter mess. Good luck for the next couple years, UCLA. It's going to be rough. It's going to be a rough go.
Up next, Kyle Shanahan and Super Bowls don't mix.
Just tough look. Now, all right, I was thinking about this. Because, again, everything needs to be held in context. Brenden, what have we been talking about with regard to Patrick Mahomes and quarterbacking for the last hour and 35 minutes? Is he one of the greatest of all time? Is he on the Tom Brady train? Blah, 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 all that stuff. Can we really hold it against Kyle Shanahan that his 3 Super Bowl losses, while he had double-digit leads in all of them, his 3 Super Bowl losses are against Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes? If he lost to, like, say, I don't know, the Bills with Josh Allen, who'd never been there before, like, all right, let's go. He's lost to arguably two of the greatest quarterbacks of all time and two of the greatest winners of all time. Does he get any bit of a pass for that? Or do you bifurcate the two? I love that word. Because, I mean,
no, because
his 3 losses are to Brady, Mahomes.
Yeah, and to me, it's like each one of them has a unique thing where you go, you messed up, and you thought you would have learned from your mistakes more than once. Like this one.
But is it more about him or is it more about them? Like, okay, the Patriot one, yeah, dude, run the ball. You run the ball, kick the field goal.
Notice how no one blames Dan Quinn for that. People blame Kyle Shanahan.
He should, though. He should. He was on the headset. He's the guy right there that should be making the call. Last I checked, offensive coordinators, right, they sit in a different office than the head office. But that's neither here nor there. That was 7 years ago. But I don't know. It just feels like Mahomes is going to ruin a lot of coaches' Super Bowl dreams.
Mahomes is going to be the Jordan and Brady that's in everybody's way. And it will be like,
yeah.
And I hate to say it, Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh, hey, you guys got to go through him too. So
Herbert, Allen, Lamar, like all these dudes, even Joe Burrow, right?
Joe Burrow's the only person who's proven Justin capable of beating Mahomes. He's like the
beat him once and then lost
the only
Super Bowl.
kryptonite that they have.
We'll see, though. There's going to be a lot of quarterbacks that are going to get a lot of like, boy, can he win the big? It's like, yeah, if he played in the NFC.
And let's remind ourselves, and I saw this on Twitter, and it's so accurate, Justin. This was the worst Chiefs team in the Reid-Mahomes era.
Yeah.
And they won the Super Bowl. That's Brady-type stuff right there. That's what that is.
He's the best of his generation. He might be one of the best of all time. We don't know. We might be sitting here watching the greatest quarterback of all time. It's not insane to say so. We might be sitting here watching one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I don't know if you can put all of it on Kyle Shanahan in terms of, boy, he just chokes in the big games. Like, yeah, but in those big games, it's Brady, Mahomes. So I think there's something. I'm not saying give him a pass because you still have Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle and Deebo Samuel and Trent. By the way, Trent Williams just decided to get all the penalties out. Like, it's going to. Penalties was another thing we haven't talked about. Like, the muff punt was a big deal. 49ers had some penalties in, like, the worst possible times where they were rolling and just couldn't get it clicking because of penalties. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough because I think the overtime thing, which we're going to talk about on the other side, I think the overtime decisions, I think that's fair but like Kyle Shanahan didn't fumble. Christian McCaffrey did. He didn't muff the punt. That completely flipped everything in the game. But again, great coaches, when you face a little bit of adversity, you got to find a way to bounce back. That being said, welcome to the big boy's chair, right? And when you go into the big boy office and you wear the big boy headset, unfair criticisms come down the pike. Now, all that being said, 3 losses, 3 leads in Super Bowls against 3 of maybe 2 of the greatest clutch quarterbacks of all time.
I'm going to throw it in there, too. I think he's going to be, if he doesn't win, he's going to be looked at the same way that, help me out here, Justin. If I'm wrong, I'm apologize. Marv Levy, Buffalo?
Yep.
4 falls, Buffalo, man. Kyle Shanahan now, 2 falls to Kyle Shanahan. 3 if you add in the Falcons. It's really, like,
But again, it was also Andy Reid. That was Andy Reid not that long ago. When Andy Reid was with the Philadelphia Eagles, couldn't win the big game. Couldn't win the big game, couldn't do it.
1. He went to 1 Super Bowl.
Yeah, but he also went to 4 NFC title games and lost 3 of them. So it's kind of the same knock. And I don't think the 49ers are going away anytime soon.
You go back to that 4 falls to Buffalo, one of the great 30 for 30s made, and it's like after the second time or the third time, it just started to get in their heads.
It definitely does get, I would assume it got in their head.
I hate to say it, the Niners now, Justin, they're going to be seeing Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Taylor Swift in their nightmares, and I'm here for it.
I don't think it got like the 2019 or the 2020 Super Bowl. I don't think that got in their heads. I don't think that had really. I just think it was penalties, turnovers, and you can't let Patrick Mahomes have a one-possession game. You just can't do it. All right, coming up next. Speaking of one-possession game, overtime, each team gets a possession. Did the 49ers know it? And should the 49ers and maybe NFL teams moving forward take the college football approach with regard to the overtime rules? That's next, 620 Rip City Radio. right, time to wrap up hour number 2. All right, true story. Actual, true story. I'm sitting at the Super Bowl party. There's about 20 people there. It's a good amount of people. A lot of 49er fans. A lot of tension. A lot of tension in the room. Understood, because the game was going into overtime. And there's a lot of things that come with being a sports talk host in real life. And one of those things is people expect you, as they probably should, to know what's going on. And also, I don't want to be like, I don't know. They're like, don't you do this? So new overtime comes in, and I'm like, I think I know what's going on. That in the postseason, even if a team scores a touchdown, the other team gets the football, and if they tie it, we continue on with overtime. And if they don't, game's over. And also, Brenden, did you know? Like, they throw the 15 minutes up there, and it's like, yeah, that's just the first quarter of overtime. It doesn't matter. I didn't realize that it did not matter. Because the Chiefs had the ball, and there was like a minute to go, and they're not calling a timeout. And I'm just like, what are they doing here? And it was like, and then Tony Romo was like, yeah, it's just if the clock runs out, then we go to the other side, just like the end of the first quarter.
Yep.
I did not know that.
That part I did know.
I did not. Yeah. I was sitting there in the Super Bowl party going like, yeah, if they don't get it, like if the clock runs out, they're going to have to use some. And they're like, and then Tony Romo was like, yeah, no. So all that being said, I'm sitting there as a guy that works in sports, and overtime comes, and I'm like, I think I know this. And I didn't know the whole time clock thing. And as it turns out, not such a terrible thing, because actual players in the actual game did not know what was going on. This is comments after the game. Eric Armstead, shout out, Oregon Duck. Eric Armstead said, I didn't even know the new playoff overtime rule, so it was a surprise to me. Said I didn't even really know what was going on in terms of that. Yesterday's game was the first played under the new overtime rules to assure that both teams get a chance to possess the ball. Now, this is a playoff overtime rule. Regular season, I still think it's the same old school. You score a touchdown, you win, you walk it off, we're good. Playoffs, I believe, because again, I've never been more unsure of anything in my life. Kyle Juszczyk said after the game, you know what? I didn't even realize playoff rules were different in overtime. I assume you just want the ball to score a touchdown and win. I guess that's not the case. I don't totally know the strategy there. We hadn't talked about it. No. Eric Armstrong also went on to say they put it on the scoreboard. Everyone was like, oh, even if you score, they get a chance still. 49ers did not know the new rules. Now, on the other hand, I don't know how much of this is because one team won and the other team didn't, but Andy Reid said, yeah, we talked about it all year. We talked about it in training camp, about how the rules were different in regular season versus the playoffs. Every week of the playoffs, we talked about the overtime. So, as it turns out, there's that playoff experience, right? No stone left unturned. I talk about it with coaches all the time. You wonder why these guys are as nuts as they are. One oversight can not only cost you a game, can cost you a championship. Now, I'm not saying that's what the case was here because the 49ers didn't get to the end zone anyways. But now looking back in the playoffs, the fact that both teams get a possession no matter what, unless it's a defensive score, man, why not send your defense out there? Now, I will say Tony Romo made, I thought, a pretty good point, which was at the end of that regulation, San Francisco's defense looked a little bit gassed. And it was like, look, we got a bajillion-minute-long commercial break. Throw the offense back out there. Offense gets any points whatsoever, put out one of the best defenses in the league. One stop. But looking back, hindsight, 2020, you got to send the defense out there, don't you? Because you just gave Kansas City every advantage, and in turn giving Patrick Mahomes every advantage, which is, I know what I got to get now. And I can understand if it's another quarterback, but you give Patrick Mahomes another advantage, which is, I know what I have to get. As we learned, ball game. So, as we were talking about last segment of like Kyle Shanahan and the postseason, and if you believe everything that, and I don't know why Eric Armstead or Juszczyk would be lying about, and Chris Jones, defensive lineman for the Chiefs, said, yeah, we talked about it for 2 weeks about the new overtime rules. And Justin Reed, safety for the Chiefs, said, yeah, with preparation, we knew about it in training camp. We talked about it all year. Because, again, now I don't know about the 49ers, but I know about the Chiefs. This is that chess, not checkers stuff. The Chiefs knew they were going to be in the postseason. They knew they were going to be, at some point, potentially in a Super Bowl. And so, with new rules, with new changes, do not let a chance go by where you're not prepared. That's the chess, not the checkers. Now, I don't think it made a difference, but it does say something where 49ers did not know the new rules. Along with me, I didn't know the new rules. Because I thought I knew. I was talking with all this confidence, and it was like, no, that's not it. You're a big dumb doofus, Justin. All right, we've got hour number 3 coming up next. Steve Tannen's going to join the show. RCM Mailbag. More Super Bowl talk next. 620 Rip City Radio. It is 8 a.m. on a Monday morning. Justin Myers with you. Kansas City Chiefs are Super Bowl champions yet again. They take down the San Francisco 49ers 25-22 in overtime. Just the second overtime in Super Bowl history. Kyle Shanahan happened to be on the losing end of both. Mahomes is your MVP, now adds a third Super Bowl MVP to his 3 Lombardi trophies. In other football news over the weekend, Chip Kelly has left UCLA. He will take on the offensive coordinator job at the Ohio State University, leaving the Bruins with a head coaching vacancy late into the coaching carousel cycle. And Steve Tannen, friend of the program from 95.3 The Score, down in Eugene, who, like me, covered every game that Chip Kelly was at the University of Oregon, joins us in 20 minutes. We have got an RCM mailbag, more Super Bowl reaction in hour number 3 of Rib City Mornings, as it starts right now at 620 Rib City Radio. All right, we've covered a ton from the game yesterday. I believe biggest thing coming out of Las Vegas with the Super Bowl is Mahomes is now at a different level. I know that it is ring culture, and ring culture can be a little bit lazy, but you know what? I love sports because at the end of the day, there's a winner and a loser. That's why I love sports. At the end of the day, somebody wins, somebody loses. Why? A lot of different reasons why. It doesn't matter, though. There's a scoreboard, and we definitively know who wins and who loses. That's why one of the things about college football that drives me up a wall is when, like, one team will beat another, and then you'll get to the end, like, who needs to be into the playoff? It's like, well, Texas and Alabama. Who's the better team? Like, we know Texas beat Alabama on their home field. It's not debatable. Like, that happened. That was a win over the other. It's the only evidence we have. We love to debate, we love to discuss, but when it comes right down to it, there's winners and there's losers. Winners get sprinkles. Winners get ice cream on the way home. Losers sit and think about it. So with that, Patrick Mahomes, he elevates himself to another level because there are quarterbacks that can win throwing for a gajillion yards. There are quarterbacks that can win being check down Charlie. And it's like, hey, you got all these weapons. All you got to do is just. There are quarterbacks that can win by being clutch. And the analytics people will tell you, no, there's no such thing as clutch. I present to you Patrick Mahomes. Dude, a couple years ago was down in the postseason with 19 seconds left. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, got a field goal, tied it, went to overtime. That's why I have the new overtime rules, by the way. There is such a thing as clutch. It exists. Certain people, certain guys, in certain situations, their heart rate just lowers. Most of us, we get in tight situations. Human nature kicks in. We get nervous. We get antsy. Heart rate starts going through the roof. You start second guessing and triple. Guys at that elite level, the Patrick Mahomes types, seem to be comfortable, made for it. They're fine, which is why 4th and 1 on your own 35, Super Bowl on the line. And it was like, dude, Mahomes has got this. And Tony Romo even said it in his very unique Tony Romo way. Hey, Jim, you think they're going to give the ball to anybody other than Patrick Mahomes there, Jim? And they didn't. That's why the Chiefs are at that level. There was something, I think, symbolic about this was a year to knock off the Chiefs. This was it. This was the year. Travis Kelce's distracted dating Taylor Swift. Remember that whole fun time back in the day? He's distracted. He's on his way down to Buenos Aires, watching a concert in Argentina. He's not focused on football. Okay. Mahomes doesn't have any weapons left. Andy Reid's pretty much about ready to retire. They couldn't pay for everybody. They paid Mahomes too much money. They don't have the weapons. Maybe all of those trips to the AFC title game and all those trips to the Super Bowl, finally, the tread on that tire just worn down. This was it. They're done. They're cooked. I said it. Wrong, but I said it. It's like, each and every Tuesday on this show, we did our fun tier, and I was like, I think the Chiefs might be cooked. Remember, Travis Kelce was spiking his helmet out of frustration. Kadarius Toney couldn't line up. Like, Brenden, you were saying, cut his you-know-what.
Oh, he was a healthy scratch yesterday.
He did not play a snap in the Super Bowl. He did not. He's still going to get a ring, but he didn't play. But you remember, it's like their receivers are a mess. Travis Kelce's too distracted. Mahomes looks shaky. Chiefs are cooked. They got to go through Josh Allen. Who is it? Josh Allen's time? And then they got to go through Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's the MVP. And then they got to go through the 49ers, who are going to remember what happened 4 years ago. They're going to remember. Boom, boom, boom. Fourth and the season, the legacy, the Super Bowl, everything. 4th and 1. That's why it's symbolic. What was the play that the Chiefs ran? It was 4th and 1. Did they run a tush push? No, that's not what they do. Did they run between the tackles under center? Because I noticed that Jim Nance even said, it's 4th and 1. Why are they going out of shotgun? Fair question. Why would you want to, you need 1 yard for the Super Bowl? Because roll out 2 options. 2 options for the football with the Super Bowl on the line. What were those 2 options? One was Travis Kelce, who is maybe the best tight end of all time. It's debatable. He's in the discussion now.
He's closing in on Tony G, man.
I don't know, Jim, but
it's easy though, Justin. It's like Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, and him. Like, there's nobody else but those 3, and it's like, has he gotten past Tony G, really? And Super Bowl legacy, yes, but he's like, something. I looked the other day, Justin. Tony Gonzalez was a man amongst boys. He has 7,000 more yards than Kelce right now. You're like, what? A lot
of that's longevity, which that means something. Also, dude, Tony Gonzalez, if he was in a tight end happy,
oh my goodness gracious.
But it's Gronk, it's Kelce,
Gronk too, yeah.
And George Kittle's gonna get there. He's so good.
Sure.
He got taken out of defensively, they did a good job because Kittle did not get loose at all.
I don't think he even got a catch.
He got the one, and it was called back on a penalty. Then he hurt the shoulder and some things like that. But regardless, going back to that 4th down play, Chiefs with everything on the line. Yeah, guess where the ball is going to go? Either Kelce or Mahomes. That's why they're the best.
How did the Chiefs?
Let's not get cute. Let's not. Hey, maybe something. No. My guys. Quarterback, tight end are better than your guys. We're going to find a way to get one of them the ball. And Mahomes got the ball, kept it. Boom. 15-yard gain. We're back in business.
Well,
yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so the other part of that too, Justin, is how are the Chiefs so lucky that they have, we talk about how have the Packers had 25 years of straight quarterback play. Justin, the Chiefs had 3 years between when they got, or 4 years between when they got rid of Tony G and then when they got Kelce. Mm-hmm. So you went from one Hall of Fame tight end to another. Not too shabby, eh?
Not too bad. But that's why a team like the Chiefs, amongst many, many, many other reasons, but it's nobody else is going to get the ball here. It's 4th in the ball game. Nobody else is going to get the ball. It's going to come down to either Patrick Mahomes, or it's going to come down to Travis Kelce.
Let me ask you this:
nobody. Pacheco, you're not getting the ball.
He did fumble.
I'm
curious, Justin. Your in your mind, where do you put Kelce after that 3rd Super Bowl? Is he the best tight end in your book, or do you think it's more to?
Here's the thing about tight ends, and it's like everything else, but it's not as fun. We are in an era, and I will credit Gronk and Tom Brady for this is the golden era of tight ends. You go back a couple years ago, Tony Gonzalez crawled and walked so these rest of these tight ends could run.
Great analogy.
It's true though. He did. He crawled and walked so that Greg Olsen, Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Hawkinson. Who's the guy for the Bills?
Kincaid.
That dude. Who's the guy for the Ravens?
Mark Andrews.
McAndrews. We are in a golden age of tight end matchups. And I think
Graham in his prime.
I think it goes back to the Tony Gonzalez model, which is, Jimmy Graham. Like, those guys created something, because for a long time, like, tight end was kind of an overlooked position. It was, you are a 4th or 6th offensive line, and maybe you might catch a 4-yard out. And now, like, they're running seams, they're running screens, they're running everything. So it's, all that being said, it's hard to say who's the greatest of all time. Is it Tony Gonzalez because he essentially created the position of the modern day tight end? Now, these guys, none of these guys are who they are if not for Tony Gonzalez, my opinion. None of them are. But they have also taken it and... But I would say, in their prime, you get first-round draft pick, tight end. I think I'm going Travis Kelce.
Yeah,
I think I'm going Travis Kelce.
It's
the only asterisk I would say is, and again, it's the same thing with Gronk. Could Gronk have played without Tom Brady? Probably, but
would he been as good?
The connection that they had. Same reason with Mahomes and Kelce.
Yeah,
Maato. Commercial still makes me laugh. Mahomes and Maato?
Yeah, it's great.
How about Kelce? How much I can say? Anyways.
Wait till we see more Andy Reid commercials, too.
They're coming. But Mahomes and Kelce, they've got they even said, like, half the time, I don't know if it's half the time, but a good chunk of time, he doesn't run a designed route. If they call them Kelce routes, they're like, see where the defense is going.
Yeah.
I'm going to find, and, like, he's the best.
Yeah,
he's so good.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
And he can yell at his coach on the sideline, and they can get over it and win the Super Bowl and be just fine. Twitter people, are, oh, what a bad look for, like, nobody knows each other better than Andy Reid and Travis Kelce.
I'll say this, Justin. I couldn't say a couple things. One, I don't think Travis Kelce, and who knows, I'd have to see, but Tony G might have the leg up because, Tony G was a pretty good basketball player too, Justin. I
watched Tony Gonzalez play at Cal.
He was good, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
he was good.
Maybe a bit more.
Could have been a journeyman NBA player.
Wow, that's nuts.
But he must rather be a Hall of Fame NFL player.
Yeah,
right? He made the right call.
And then secondly, Justin, something else that I remembered seeing yesterday that we all kind of, I wouldn't say forgot about, but just, Justin loves butterfly effects, folks. He loves what if.
It's why football is the best. I opened the show with this. I'm going to close it with...
Do you remember...
That's why football is the best, because what happens...
Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan is a choke artist and can't win the big game. It's like, he's got 2 overtime Super Bowl losses.
Right. So
he's been to overtime twice.
Right. So, Justin, do you remember, it was like, I want to say either before Labor Day or shortly after, college football had started, NFL had not. Something big happened in Kansas City. They thought Travis Kelce tore his ACL in practice.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be just a knee. He only missed 1 game this year, I believe. Maybe it was 1 more later. But, like, just imagine, Justin, at, like, just the butterfly effect of that. Would Travis Kelce ever be the same player after an injury at this point in his career? And, like, the fact that it really was just, like, the difference of, like, a couple degrees of separation between not being injured and is. And I think we've determined, like, Mahomes can win without Tyreek Hill. He can win with different defensive personnel. I think he and Kelce always have to stay a constant, and that's why I'm wondering about what Mahomes' career will be like once Kelce retires. Because, like you said, those two are special.
And which is why you go back to that 4th down play, and why Andy Reid is a really good coach. It's like, are we going to get cute here? Are we going to try to create match? No. We're going to roll out, and I'm either going to let Patrick run the ball, and if the defense tries to stop that, he's going to throw it to Travis Kelce. And one of my 2 best players is going to get the ball here. All right. Coming up next, continue some Super Bowl talk. I don't know if we talk Oregon basketball. They lost to Wazoo. What's going on there? But Chip Kelly on his way to Ohio State. Friend of the program from 95.3 The Score down in Eugene. Steve Tannen joins the show next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, it is a shake off the cobwebs Super Bowl hangover Monday, and whether you are somebody that maybe had one too many yesterday afternoon, or if you're like me, you just ate terribly, and I am paying for it food-wise, we're all kind of shaking it off today. Now, the only way that it can make the day better is, I don't know, if maybe a couple of your wagers hit. Now, mine did not, but apparently our next guest had quite the profitable day on his bank account, and that is friend of the program, my old partner in crime from down at 95.3 The Score in Eugene, Steve Tannen, back on the big show. Good morning, Steve. How are we doing?
I'm doing great. You know that old saying, a broken clock is right twice a day and a blind squirrel finds a nut? I present to you me yesterday.
Now, I know that the listening audience, much like they don't care about my workouts, and they don't care about fantasy football. They truly do not care about my bad beats. But while you had a couple of good bets hit, let's just say that your boy here had the 2 and the 9 in the square game at 22-19.
Nice.
I had it at 22-19 in overtime until Patrick Mahomes ripped it right out of my heart.
The last time I won one of those box games was when John Elway threw a late touchdown in the Giants Super Bowl in 1987. So I'm completely unfamiliar with the concept of winning those. But Chiefs and the under was my big Sunday. And, you know, it's funny because you mentioned about people on the West Coast with their Super Bowl hangover.
Mm-hmm.
They, no. You had from 7:30 on to recover.
Yeah.
When I used to live back east, the Monday after the Super Bowl was like, whoa, that's the true misery.
Well, and I was just going to ask you that because I mentioned it right at the top of the show, being appreciative that being on the West Coast is the best. Now, you've lived both, right? You lived on the East Coast. You grew up on the East Coast. I personally love West Coast sports. I don't understand why anyone would wait till 1 o'clock to watch NFL football or, God forbid, wait till noon to watch college football. Steve, we watch it at 9 a.m. March Madness gets going at 9 a.m., and maybe it's because I'm a morning guy. But, like, days like today, are we really, truly appreciative of being on the West Coast because it is the best?
I moved here in 1990 from the East Coast, and the first Super Bowl, the first NFL Sunday, it took me about 48 seconds to say, it's not even a conversation. This is the best thing ever. Let's move along with our lives. And it's not even close. You don't have to think about things. You get up, you have a cup of coffee, your game is on, you have breakfast. You could do things at night. No, when it comes to sports, sorry, and you know how loyal I am to my New York teams, and that'll never change. But West Coast, Best Coast is a lock.
Steve Tannen from 95.3 The Score, Danny Eugene joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, let's talk some football, Steve. Let's talk about Patrick Mahomes. I've been saying it for the last couple of weeks. Tom Brady ruined the curve, right, with regard to how we talk about quarterbacks and Super Bowls, because after Tom Brady's 7, then you get into Terry Bradshaw, and that was the 70s, a little bit of a different game. Obviously, Joe Montana and everything that he has. And the amount of Hall of Fame, potential greatest of all time quarterbacks who just have 2 is amazing. And with what he was able to do, winning in overtime, the way that they went about it, and it's like, welcome now, Patrick Mahomes, to the discussion of all-time great quarterbacks, because I think that's where he's at. Where are you at with Patrick Mahomes?
Oh, the audacity of him to be 28 and be in this conversation. And like what you mentioned, you know, people say, well, if you delete Jordan, how different are we talking about Patrick Ewing and Charles Barkley and Karl Malone and those guys? But he is now even with Brady at this point. And remember, Brady went from win it, miss the playoff, win it, get his 3, and then he doesn't win it for another decade. So where Mahomes is now, first of all, the 6 straight trips to the Final Four. I'm sorry, we can't just brush past that where every season he's the starter. You have to say, well, I wonder what the Chiefs are going to do. But as you alluded to when you talk about legacy and the way he just couldn't do anything right in the first half, but with his legs, the dump-offs, his ability to throw the ball away and live to play another down and, just find the right jersey, whether it's backup tight end, then finally lean on Kelsey. I mean, this guy is just brilliant, and I want to talk about the fact that he's in the conversation, but I don't want to rate him yet, because it's like if you looked at, let's say, who's a great painter, like Da Vinci painting the Mona Lisa, halfway through you wouldn't have stopped him and said, that's one of the 5 best paintings ever. Let's let him finish first.
Oh, my God. That is the amount of people on Twitter, if Twitter existed back when Da Vinci was painting the Mona Lisa, Steve, of people who would be like, I don't get it. This is an overrated painting. I mean, who even is Mona Lisa? Like, when people are like, this is so overrated, I can only imagine what Twitter would have been like. Or the Sistine Chapel. Like,
Call me when you paint the Sistine Chapel, dude.
And then, even then, like, I've seen 4 chapels better than this with this, like this. All right. One more thing on Patrick Mahomes, because like in real estate, like you got to have comps, right? And we do it in sports all the time, especially in our profession, Steve, where we want to compare. Drafts coming up. What's the comp? What is this guy? Who does he remind you of? And you could throw a lot of things out there, but I think it's even more impressive where Mahomes is becoming his own guy, right? There were comps at the beginning. Then he does something to kind of change the narrative. And then there's another comparable. And then I don't know if he's quite there yet, but I don't know of a comp right now of where I know I've heard John Elway, which I think is a good one, but like where he's at and the fact that 4th and 1, Super Bowl on the line, you're on 35, he still has the legs to pick that up in a little bit of an option, and he can still throw for 300 yards. Like, I don't know if there's a comparable player in history with Patrick Mahomes.
No, you're big, strong pocket passers, whether it's been Brady or Roethlisberger or Peyton Manning. He can also stand in the pocket. And I think Elway's a good comparison because he doesn't obviously have the wheels of Lamar Jackson. I don't even think he's got the wheels even of a Josh Allen. But in the moment, his ability to kind of decipher exactly what's happening and figure out what he needs to do. And I think because he's only about 6'3", you kind of forget, Justin, he's also about 235. He's really strong. And that effort first down he got, I don't think he gets that if he's Tua Tagovailoa. I don't think if he's got a smaller frame or less tenacity, he gets that because this guy is just a bull. Don't get in his way when it comes to winning a game. I just love this kid.
Steve Janin from 95.3 The Score down in Eugene joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Steve, let's do a little nitpicking. I will hand up because I will be the first. I was at a Super Bowl party, went to overtime, not the entire party, but enough people went to like, hey, Justin, you're the sports guy. What's the new overtime rules? And I'm like, I think I know, but I didn't quite know. And it turns out 49ers might not have even known the overtime rules as well. But looking back on it now, forever and ever and ever, it was you win the coin toss, you take the ball, right? There was the time Marty Morningwig didn't. He lost his job, I think, a year later. But you win the coin toss, you get the ball, you go and you try to score. And now they've changed the rules in the playoffs and overtime. And I'm wondering, not really putting it on Shanahan, but like into the future, if they keep this overtime rule where both teams get a possession, do you think they're going to go to like the college football strategy of, all right, let's go on defense first. We know what we need to get because we know we're going to get the ball back. I was thinking about that, going like, yeah, why wouldn't you go defense first now that you know you're going to get a second possession?
By the way, you're now forcing me to confess because, hi, I'm Steve and I'm a football idiot. As they're reading the rules, and like you said, people know what you do. I'm with a bunch of people, and I'm like, I had no idea.
No idea.
We were dealing with new overtime rules. And the rule itself, first of all, as far as I'm concerned, Kansas playing in college football, hate. The new overtime rule, hate. As far as I'm concerned, I pitched in for 4 quarters. It's overtime, sudden death, first score, let's get out of here. But I wonder if Shanahan had not just had his defense marched on and they weren't a little fatigued, if he wouldn't have altered his strategy. I'm with you. I think, and a lot of people talk about it's actually Belichick who started the let's defer and go on defense and see what we need to do on offense. But when he won, what's his name, Warner called tails, and I was like, it took me about a half a second to be like, did they really just take the ball? I'm with you. It was like, I don't know about that.
And I'm sitting there and like I'm second guessing myself, and then all of a sudden, while we're confessing things, the game clock is winding down, and I'm like, I think Kansas City's gonna have to start using some timeouts here. Like, are they gonna settle for a few? And it was like, and then all of a sudden it was like, yeah, this is just the first quarter of overtime, and I'm like, oh well, I didn't know that either.
Let me explain something. My advantage of being old, I lived through the Chiefs and Dolphins in 1971. Only reason I knew that is that once you get into sudden death, and it's actually sudden death at that point, it rolls over. Because there were a couple people saying, like, so they just going to let the Super Bowl run out? So, yeah, by the way, next time there are rule changes and I show up at a Super Bowl party, I'm going to have a PDF file with me.
Exactly. Maybe like a cheat sheet or like not that I would have ever endorsed doing this, maybe in college, but like, I don't know, just like you put notes in your hat, and I don't know. Not that I would have ever done that or attempted that or tried that, but nonetheless. One last thing on the Super Bowl, Steve, and then we got to talk about Chip Kelly, by the way. But Steve Tanner from 95.3 The Score is joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Now the stink of can't win the big game goes on Kyle Shanahan. It's unfair, but it's welcome to the big boy chair, right? And it's interesting that when you look at, as an offensive coordinator with the Falcons, there's that loss for Kyle Shanahan that a lot of people put on him, even though he wasn't the head guy. And in overtime, and then another overtime loss, and then another loss. And his losses just happened to be against Mahomes and Tom Brady, you know, a couple of pretty significant figures with regard to postseason. I know it's unfair, but is there something where you look at, boy, they've had double-digit leads in 2 Super Bowls. He's the head coach. Is there just something about Kyle Shanahan just doesn't know how to close out the big game, or is that just he also is coaching against Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, in the world there are closers like Mariano Rivera, and applying it to a Braves fan, Stan Belinda. So there are certain people, I mean, that have this reputation, Marv Levy, Dan Reeves, and it's like, man, you lose every big game. And I guess the supporters are like, yeah, but in order to get on the biggest stage, you got to win a lot of big games. I think in Shanahan's favor, he's still young enough. I mean, they still have a really good team. There's no reason not to think that with Philly and a couple other teams in the NFC, they won't contend next year. But at a certain point, you need to, I guess, as a head coach, somebody who has to shoulder the actual burden, take a timeout. There were a couple times, and I looked at my game notes, and I was like, why are they just completely not handing the ball off to McCaffrey? I mean, at a certain point, it's like you're on the lead. It's the second half. How does he not get a touch every set? So he left the door open. He's a terrific young coach. But like you said, at a certain point, when you go check 1, check 2, check 3, check 4, you got to wonder if it's a little bit on him.
Steve Tanner from 95.3 The Score in Eugene joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. And for those that don't know, real quick recap. Steve and I, for years and years and years, did the pregame and postgame show for Oregon football. And what a run it was. And each and every game that Chip Kelly was the head coach at Oregon, Steve and I were there doing the pregame and a lot of really boring postgame shows because they blew the doors off of a lot of teams. But it was a run. And in that entire time, you know, Steve, we were there. We got a chance to talk to Chip a handful of times. Never really quite knew him. Nobody really in Eugene ever did. He was just kind of just standoffish enough where you would hear things and go like, huh, I'll be darned, I didn't know that at all. So one thing we always knew about Chip Kelly is he is his own man. He will do what he wants to do, and at a certain point does not care what anybody else thinks. That's how you get that offense that Oregon was running. And I thought about that a lot this weekend because I can't remember a time where we would see a UCLA head coach, a team that is heading into the Big Ten, that is in a recruiting hotbed in Los Angeles, and seem to kind of have some things clicking towards the end of the year, beating USC, decided to just pack it up, leave, and go be an offensive coordinator at Ohio State. Even for Chip, a guy who, Steve, we know don't ever take anything for granted. Even for Chip, this is an odd move, I think.
Yeah, what's the cliche? March to the beat of a different drummer. Kelly has always been a guy who he doesn't have to tell you the words. Just watch what he's doing. After they beat Wisconsin with Russell Wilson in the Rose Bowl, he met with Tampa Bay and, in essence, said, well, this is great. I'm leaving for the NFL eventually. So a couple weeks back, you started to hear the buzz about he's putting the feelers out to maybe become an offensive coordinator in the NFL. That's his way of saying, well, I'm leaving. I don't like it here anymore. I don't like recruiting. I don't care if I personally, as a head coach, am going to the Big Ten. This is what I want to do. So he's been a guy who pursues his wants with lots of fervor. So I'm not surprised at all because he doesn't want to be involved in recruiting and glad-handing. I don't have to tell you. That was never his big thing. He was the first guy after all those years of Rich Brooks and Bellotti. He stopped doing the coaches show. He was like, this is not my thing. I want to be at dinner with my family and all of a sudden design a play on a napkin. He wants to call plays now, and guess what he's doing? He's calling plays at Ohio State.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, though. I'm with you, and maybe it's a different beast being in the offensive coordinator's office as opposed to being in the head guy's office. And I know him and Ryan Day go back, and maybe it was, but like, does he, like, Ohio State's a pretty big recruiter, Steve. You know what I mean? Like, they're still fighting tooth and nail for every transfer portal guy, and knowing that if they lose just one game, the crazies there in and around Columbus are going to go ballistic. The NFL thing made sense to me. The Ohio State thing is where I'm kind of scratching my head because I would imagine still a fair amount of recruiting going on at Ohio State.
Yeah, but I guess he has assistants. He has a head coach. He's got people on the other side of the ball. It's not all on him. And, of course, Ohio State is a blue blood. And, by the way, that dog's showing up here.
By the way, let me just say this. Looking at the clock, Steve, dog's timing impeccable. Impeccable.
Yeah. And I almost got away with it. I thought my wife goes to pick up a couple of dogs to bring home for our doggy daycare. Usually she gets home about 1:15, but I guess there's not a lot of traffic in Eugene. But back to Chip, I think the bottom line is, like I said earlier, he is mostly guided by what he wants to do.
Yeah.
So I think he's incorporated all of that. And let's face it now, recruiting is so much different now. It's almost like NFL-ish because it's almost like bringing in free agents, and it is Ohio State. It is massive. So I'm with you. If somebody would have said a week ago, Chip Kelly's changing jobs, here's the money to bet, NFL or college, I'd have bet NFL. But I'm not totally shocked because it's Ohio State. I mean, we're talking about a school of magnitude.
I mean, it is something, and we'll have time to discuss this through because we got a long time without football in our lives, Steve, and we're gonna have to figure it out. But I mean, it is interesting when you look at college now, and I don't know which direction it's gonna go, but you look at Dan Lanning is like a perfect guy for college football now because he's maniacal. Right? He does not stop. He has got a motor that will not quit, and he could be doing the transfer portal and re-recruiting his own players and probably negotiating NIL deals and still doing the high school thing. And that's the perfect coach for the perfect time, which is why I think Oregon is set up. I could only imagine the Chip Kelly that we kind of knew getting like a backup tight end coming into his office going like, Coach, if I don't get another $30,000 in my NIL deal, I'm transferring. I can only imagine like that conversation happening as to wondering why he would then leave the job at UCLA.
Yeah, that's not his cup of tea. And I think he will be an offensive coordinator with a head coach mentality who will kind of delegate and maybe occasionally dive in to, we've got this kid, he's from Georgia, he might want to go to Florida, he might want to go to USC, but I really need you to explain to him the focal point of your offense and why he'll have such success here and why you can provide an avenue to the NFL. So I used the term earlier, but I think he might be more of a closer in recruiting than more of like Lanning and these staff. These guys are just out on the trail like beasts.
And UCLA, by the way, wasted no time. You and I are old enough to remember Deshaun Foster as a running back. He was the running backs coach last year for UCLA. Took a job with the Raiders with Antonio Pierce. That lasted about a week and a half because he's been named the head coach at UCLA about 28 minutes ago. So Deshaun Foster, good luck with that. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a tough run for a couple of years, but maybe ultimately he is the guy. Hey, Steve. Thanks so much. Appreciate the time. Have a terrific week. Have a terrific show later on this afternoon. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, everybody try and deal with no football and go Knicks.
There we go.
All right. Justin.
Steve Tannen from 95.3 The Score down in Eugene. We have got one more segment to wrap up the big show next. 620 Rip City Radio. time to wrap up the big show. Can the people on YouTube, they can't hear the song, right? But they can see my dancing. Good to know. If you want to check out the show via YouTube, go to the Rip City Radio page. You will see my dancing. You will not hear the music. Thanks a lot, copyright.
Different music.
Thanks a lot, copyright laws. So the dancing's not going to coincide with whatever the music is playing. But either way, pumped up. Time to wrap up the big show. And we do that the same way each and every. Oh, by the way, speaking of the techno music, I saw there's a lot of cool things about Allegiant Stadium. I've never been there. I'm going to a concert this summer at Allegiant Stadium, but I've never been there. And
not quite as good as SoFi.
Have you been there for a game?
For the Beaver Vegas Bowl.
Boom. That's right.
Yeah, I've been to two of the nicest stadiums in America, baby, and I am unapologetic about it. SoFi's the best.
But they have a club, like an actual nightclub at the thing, and I saw that not only was there a DJ DJing the nightclub, but also there was a VIP with like bottle service in like the end zone.
Nice.
And I was just like, how much dumb money do you got to have to be like, you know what? I want to go to a Super Bowl and sit in I want bottle service.
Like Balmer money. Toilets! You know, you do.
But it's not sweet money,
That's
right?
true.
The sweets, and then, but either way, I saw that and I was just like.
I mean, you're probably talking, Justin, people who can, just guessing, a couple $100,000. So, I mean,
sure it was.
Probably something like that, you know? I guess not millionaires or billionaires, but like, still pretty uncommon, you know what I mean?
Just imagine being at the Super Bowl, you just get bottle service at the VIP. Probably overrated, like a lot of other things. Probably pretty overrated. Anywho, you know what's not overrated? RCM mailbag. Here we go.
All right, Justin, this one's going to be fun for us to talk about. What is your favorite quality about yourself and your least favorite quality about yourself?
All right. I like to think I'm a nice guy. I truly do. I try to be a nice guy. I think I'm pretty self-aware in terms of like, I don't want to be mean. I don't want to be rude. I'm not rude to servers. I'm not rude to service industry people, like whether it's like people checking out the groceries or, you know what I mean? Like there are just people out there who are just rude. Like there are times you can catch me in a mood. Don't get me wrong. It's not my best thing. But yeah, I think I try to be a nice guy and I try not to be rude. It's probably in terms of like personality without being too hubris. I mean, clearly my sense of humor, but some may disagree. But I would think, yeah, best thing, I try not to be rude. I think politeness is something that is easy. It's easily controlled. You can always, and not perfect, but you can always be polite, which is why I'm on my politeness social media kick. I'm not putting negativity out in the world. I'm not going to put negative tweets out there. If I do, they're going to be sarcastic at best. And then most negative thing, like,
can I ask a follow-up question first while you think about that negative thing? A quick follow-up with that, Justin. Does it count of being rude if that person cannot hear you? Because I've determined the only time you're going to catch Brenden in a really bad mood where I'm going to be rude, I'm going to say some things under my breath is when I have road rage in the car. But they can't hear me.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine.
So, okay.
Oh, I do that all the time.
Okay, because that's what I'm like, come on, buddy, you know what I mean? Just like yelling at my, that's when I get my grumpies out.
I go to the bar a lot. Go to a lot of bars. And I have a lot of respect for people who serve my drinks, or serve all of our drinks. I don't know if I could get back behind that thing and deal with drunk people and crowds and everything else and not snap at least 2 or 3 times. So, like, the people who are rude to bartenders and the people who are rude to servers and the people who are rude to, like, people at the grocery store, like checkers. I've seen it. And it's like, they're not in charge. They're just trying to get through their day. So when you complain about the road rage, not the road, I don't think I get road rage every once in a while.
Totally. It's not great. I need to be calmer in the car, Joe.
Do you refer to cars as like the car that they are? I'm like, let's go, Honda, figure it out.
All the time, man. All the time. I'm like, Lexus, you're going 10 miles under the limit here. Can we please move? Yeah,
Okay,
we are so similar in that regard.
It's probably not my worst quality, but one of my worst qualities is my lack of patience, especially in the car. Especially, I had to go to Costco on Saturday. Had to do it. There is a tunnel of terror at the Clackamas Costco, and anybody that does knows about the tunnel of terror where you come in and people freeze in that moment. And I'm like, let's go, Tesla, figure it out. We got to keep moving. There's a whole bunch behind. So I'm not good in that scenario. I get short. My wife hates it. But I try to be nice. That being said, hey, thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. Have a terrific Monday. We're back at it tomorrow morning, bright and early here on 620 Rip City Radio.